Hello, this is Levi from StakerFreak, and welcome to this guide on how to run a validator node on MultiversX blockchain through CryptGain. CryptGain is one of the products from StakerFreak, and its main focus or mission is to accelerate and maintain liquidity provision on proof-of-stake blockchains. This liquidity provision can be in form of providing liquidity for DeFi platforms, such as we have on the MultiversX blockchain or ecosystem, the X exchange, the OneDex, and HashSwap. Also, liquidity provision can be in the form of staking EGLD to secure the MultiversX blockchain. Now, the way liquidity provision is implemented on the CryptGain platform is that it can be deployed on any proof-of-stake blockchain. That is, any blockchain that has a consensus algorithm that is similar to the proof-of-stake blockchains. So the idea about CryptGain is it is currently deployed on MultiversX, or will be deployed on the MultiversX blockchain. Then it will further expand to other proof-of-stake blockchains. Now, to go into the topic of this guide today, we would set up a server, then secure the server, then install a MultiversX node on that server, then transform that MultiversX node into a MultiversX validator through CryptGain. Now, before you begin, you would need to look for a cloud provider that would have the service of providing a cloud compute that has these minimum requirements of 4 dedicated physical CPUs, 8 GB of RAM, 200 GB of solid state storage, 100 megabits of internet connectivity, and then an operating system with Ubuntu 22.04 as the recommended version. So I've already gotten a new server from one of the cloud providers. Now I would log into it and secure it first of all. Well, since this is a new server, I would have to accept all of this. Okay, I need to type yes. Then copy the password and paste there. Now the next order of things to do is to add a non-root user that has a sudo privilege as is recommended by the MultiversX team. So let's call this user validator. Then for now, let's just use the same password as that of the root user. Then these other information, we can leave them blank. Okay, so the next thing is to make this user part of the sudo group. So what we have to do is this: type in user mod and put in the group. Sorry. Then the name of the user. So that's it. We now have a user called validator on the server. Now let's change to this user. Now that I've created the new user with sudo rights and we've selected the user, let's go to the home directory of this user. Then continuing with the documentation, it's recommended that we open these ports. These ports range what the node would use to communicate to other nodes on the network. Then continuing, we would now install the node, the MultiversX node proper. first step is for us to clone the automated scripts that we would use for this. So once that is done, we'll set up the configuration file. So we'll have to go into the config folder, then open the configuration file. Now in this configuration file, we'll set up the environment we are using. For now, CryptGain is on the devnet of MultiversX, not yet deployed on the mainnet. When it is deployed on the mainnet, what you would put here would be mainnet. But for now, since we are already on the devnet, all you have to put here is the devnet. And for the home directory of the user, we would use validator. Then for the custom user, we use validator. And leave other settings as they are. And we save the file. Now we'd have to make our user be able to type and run sudo commands without the need of providing the password. So we'll put our username here, validator. Then with this configuration, save and close the file. Next, we're going to installing the node proper. So with cd back to where the script is located, then we'll run the install command from the script. So it asks us how many nodes we want to run. So for now, we just want to run one. So it will update the system and install some dependencies that are needed to run the node. So we'll wait for it to do its thing. Okay, now it's asking us for a custom name. So let's still go with the tradition of calling this validator node CryptGain validator. So we continue. Okay, the next step is for us to create a validator key using the keygen tool. So for that, we would make this directory, this validator's key directory. Then we generate a validator key using this command. So what this has done is it created this validator key.pem file for us. Now that we have our validator key, we can back it up on our local machine. Now to ease the process of logging into our server and doing copying files from our server to our local machine, we would set up an alias to use and access our server from our local machine. So to do that, we'll create an SSH config file on our local machine, which is located at, and the location will be here. So we'll use this template to fill in the details that we want. So the host name will be the alias we want to use. So let's call this CryptGain validator, and the IP address will be this, Then the username will be the name of the user that we created on the server, which is validator, and normal SSH ports, which is 22. Then identity file, this we've not created yet, so to create this we would use SSH keygen to create an SSH key pair for us. So once we run this, to ask us for a name we want to use, so let's use a custom name, CryptGain. Let's call it CryptGain Validator. So we'll use empty password or passphrase. Then it's created it. So it's created has now created the public key and private key for our SSH key pair. Now we need this file to add it to our SSH config file. So let's get the location of this file. So we have it at this. And the name of the file. So we just copy the full location, then we open back the config file, then we impute this into the config file and save. Now for this identity file or this SSH key pair to work, we would have to register it on our server, and to do that we would use SSH and copy ID. Then we specify the identity file we want to use, which is this, then the user at the IP address, so it's in the process of registering this. Then to ask for a password, and copy and paste the password. Now it has added it. So to test that this would work, we'll just use SSH and the alias we created in the SSH config file, which is CryptGain Validator. Okay, now it's working. So since we've made this to work, next thing we'll have to do on the server is to disable root login and password logging in with password. So to do that, we'll have to edit the sshd config file. So the file is this, is located here. Okay, first we change this permission to no, so the root can't log in. And we also change the password authentication to no. And save the file. So next thing is to restart the SSHD server to register the changes that we just made. So run sudo systemctl so these changes have now been registered. Now to back up our validator key from our remote server to our local machine, what we have to do is to use SCP to copy from our remote server to our local machine. And here's the command. Since we've set up alias for SSH, so we can use that alias to identify our remote server. So we'll use CryptGain validator. Then the file I want to copy, which is validator key.pen. Then the file I want to copy this remote file into on our local machine. So once we run this, it will copy it into our local machine. Now we've backed up the file. You can go further to transfer this file to a USB stick or any other offline or any other method of storage that you have. Now the next step will be to start this validator node, but before we do that, sorry, currently it's not a validator node, it's just a MultiversX node. To do that, we will copy this validator key into the node config file folder, and also create a zip archive of it, so that whenever we upgrade this node and all, we would still have a copy stored somewhere that the script can use to do any updates it needs. So since this is done, the next thing we have to do is to start the node by running this command. So we'll say yes to this. Now our node is successfully running. Now to check if this is the case, we'll use the terminal UI to check the status of the node. So our node is up and running, but it's currently synchronizing from the network. Okay, the name of our node is now showing, but it's still synchronizing from the network. Now while this is running, we'll head over to CryptGain and see how we'll transform this validator node into this observer node or MultiversX node into a validator node on CryptGain. Now we'll log into CryptGain using any of the supported login methods. For now, what has been implemented is just the exporter login and the web wallet login. In the future, logging in with Ledger will be implemented, or logging in with the MultiversX DeFi wallet will be implemented. So let's log in with the exporter method. So we would scan the QR code with our phone. Okay, we are inside CryptGain now. So we'll head on to the governance section. We're heading to the governance section, the governance page of CryptGain. Now in CryptGain, as I earlier said, liquidity provision can be in form of staking EGLD or in the form of providing liquidity for DeFi platforms like X Exchange, OneDex, or HashSwap. So this total stake that's here now, it's all the EGLD that have been staked on CryptGain, or that has been staked through CryptGain to secure the MultiversX blockchain. Now, because of this amount of stakes that have been staked through CryptGain or MultiversX, there will be nodes available for validators within the CryptGain community to propose if they would want to run a validator node through CryptGain. Anyone within the community can click this button to create a new voting session. So once this is done, we need to sign the transaction to register this on the blockchain. A new voting session has been created, and it starts with the collecting of proposals from interested validators from within the community. Now, for us to show our interest to run a validator node on MultiversX blockchain through CryptGain, we'll click on the Propose Node button. Now, for one to submit a proposal to run a validator node on CryptGain, there are 4 requirements, one of which is the validator key. The validator key is, we created the validator key when we set up our node initially. So we are going to drag and drop the validator key into this drop box here. Then the remaining 3 things that are needed are it's an ACO NFT with sufficient POV, then a security deposit, and a proposal fee. The proposal fee is gotten from, is paid using the GToken, that's the governance token on CryptGain. Now remember, I told you that one of the methods of liquidity provision on CryptGain is through supplying liquidity on DeFi platforms like X Exchange and others, so using any of the supported tokens. So that can be done in this section. So getting GTokens is just the process of supplying liquidity on DeFi platforms. Then for the ACO with sufficient PLV and security deposits, we'll have to go to the dashboard to mint an ACO. Now, the process of minting ACO is, what's involved in the process of minting ACO is that you would submit a transaction with any amount of EGLD that you want to mint the ACO. In the process, that EGLD will be submitted as a staked EGLD on the CryptGain platform. Then in return, you get the ACO NFT and the liquid version of staked EGLD on CryptGain, which is called the CryptEd token. And that's what is used as the security deposit when we want to create a proposal to run a validator node on CryptGain. So let's mint our ACO with this amount of EGLD. We now have an ACO that we've minted, but currently this ACO doesn't have sufficient PLV for us to use and create this proposal. So because of that, we would have to grow this ACO by clicking on the update button and setting the parameters we want to use and grow the ACO. So for now, we would grow the ACO using a 25% locked PLV. Now let's send the transaction. So the transaction has been submitted. Now, minting and growing ACO, the rewards that come with it, it's you get CryptGain and EGLD. So that's one of the advantages of minting and growing ACO on the CryptGain platform. Now let's head back to the governance page and submit our proposal. Okay, so behind the scenes, we would submit the security deposit of 50 crypt ed, then submit an ACO with sufficient PLV. This is just for approval to ensure that we've participated in the staking process on CryptGain. Now let's make our proposal. So the ACO NFT will be returned to us once this proposal is made, but the security deposit will be kept. Okay, we've not gotten any GToken yet, so let us do that by using wrapped EGLD, which is one of the supported tokens. But first, let's swap some amount of EGLD to wrapped EGLD. Okay, now we have some amount of wrapped EGLD. Now supplying liquidity to get GTokens on the CryptGain platform. So the process of getting GToken on CryptGain platform involves using any supported token. So this empowers every token that is supported by CryptGain to become a governance token. So we would use the wrapped EGLD in this case to mint our governance token. Now this is the amount of governance token that is going to be minted for us using this amount of EGLD, wrapped EGLD. So I would set the duration I want to lock this token that I'm submitting as a collateral to get the governance token. Now we now have the governance token minted for us, and immediately rewards are now coming in form of CryptGain for supplying liquidity and getting the G token. So we can now submit or make our proposal since we have all the requirements needed to make a proposal. So our proposal has been submitted. Now what we have to do is to wait and see if other community members would submit proposals. Then after that, the voting session would commence. So during this waiting time, what is required of each validator is to announce their node or announce their proposal on the community for them to be voted as validators. Now, the collecting of proposal period has passed. We are now in the period of voting, the voting period. So what we'll do is to send our votes to any of the proposals. Okay, there's another proposal here against ours, so we have a competitor. So our own proposal is marked by our wallet's address and this blue line under our proposal. So this is that of our competitor and this is for us. So to send our proposal, our vote towards the proposal, we'll just set the number of nodes that I want to allocate to this proposal, which is ours, and the voting power we want to allocate to this proposal also. Then after doing that, we'll send the vote. So our vote has been submitted and registered. So with the current results, it's saying that we are winning. So if this voting session completes and the result stays like this, then our node is accepted and can become a validator on the CryptGain platform. So let's wait and see what will happen after these 3 hours. Okay, the results are in, and this is what they are. So after the community finished voting, our node, a total of one of it, although it's only one we submitted for the proposal, was voted on, and the number of nodes we won, it's 1. And this is the total vote power that was allocated to us. Now the other person or the other proposer had 1 vote submitted by the community towards them, but their vote power wasn't enough. It didn't beat ours, so their proposal was rejected. So what this means is that we've been accepted by the community to become a validator on CryptGain. So now we'll process this like in these steps. First, to process the rewards so that these results will be recorded. Okay, now they are recorded. What we'll now have to do is start to claim our rewards, because after every governance session on CryptGain, there are rewards to be claimed, either a boost in our EK. EK is the power that's associated to our ACO NFT, and it's also a governance property. Like, it's part of the attributes that the CryptGain governance system uses. So let's claim that. Then, since we won a node, we would click on this button to add the node that we won. Now, the node that we won has been added to the delegation smart contract that's powering the CryptGain platform, but currently it's inactive. So we could use this button to stake the node so that it will now become a validator proper and we start receiving reward for it, or we'll complete the process here by claiming our reward for submitting a proposal. The first reward we claimed was because we participated in the voting process in terms of voting on a proposal. Now this reward is because of we submitted a proposal. So that's what this is done for. So as that is done, our rewards for being a validator are now coming in. Rewards for being a validator come in EGLD and CryptGain. So the CryptGain rewards are already coming in, but that of EGLD would have to wait for the end of each epoch. Then you would also notice that our node has been automatically staked during the process of reclaiming our reward. So that is it, folks. Congrats, your node is now a validator. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll have to wait for the next epoch or 2 for this to be registered on the network. That's for our node to change from an observer to a validator. Now to monitor this, we can click on this button to see the state of the node on the Explorer. So currently the Explorer or the network has recorded it as a validator, but it's currently new, and that is it. So from here henceforth, this node is now a validator node on the MultiversX network through CryptGain. Congratulations.